Clothing says a lot about a person. Fashion is an instant message, a silent statement as to a person's beliefs. What does your clothing say about you? Well, think of how we were warned in Fatima of the fashions that would displease God, and that the final battle would be on marriage and family. Now think of the disgusting pink hats, satanic symboled clothing lines for both adults and now children. To name a few, these are anti-God movements, don't kid yourself, being done through clothing. Faith Life Family Wear is a crested clothing and accessory line that promotes being pro-life, pro-faith, pro-family, and pro-traditional marriage, helping you to make a silent statement appropriate at both work and play. Some of our favorite cardinals, bishops, and priests proudly wear Faith Life Family hats and scarves, and you should too. Visit our website and read the About Us to see both of our crests. Learn the meanings behind them. We offer crests with and without symbols. Encourage your church, friends, and family to shop flfwear.com for the March for Life and for every occasion. We have tote bags that are great for Bible studies. We even have children's clothing and adult sizes up to 6XL. Remember, the more you purchase, the more that we donate to your favorite charity of choice at checkout. And unlike other companies, we make sure that our products are made by manufacturers that never use slave labor, because we value life from conception to natural death and everything in between. Put on the armor of God and wear clothing with purpose. Shop now at flfwear.com. That's faithlifefamilywear.com, and take a stand with style.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Faith Life Family. I'm your host, Masita Conti. Tonight, we'll be discussing end-of-life issues with Bobby Schindler, the executive director and founder of the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network. March 31st will mark the 11-year anniversary since Terri's untimely death. She was starved, deprived deliberately of food and water at a Florida hospice facility. She suffered for 13 long days. Bobby's family, his sister and parents, fought bravely and boldly in the court system, trying to save Terri's life. Pro-life advocates went in large numbers to her hospice. As a matter of fact, my family and I traveled from Virginia and led a Jericho March for Life on Easter Sunday in the hopes that this insanity would come to a happy end, but to no avail. 13 days of suffering. Tonight, we'll be discussing this and other issues with Bobby Schindler. Please welcome him to the show. Hello, Bobby.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's been a long time coming. We've kind of crossed paths, but have never formally met. If you could just, for the people that are unaware of exactly what happened to Terri and how she ended up in a hospice, can you kind of take us back to 1990? What happened?
Sure. She was 26 years old and had an unexplained collapse. To this day, we don't know what happened, but she was home alone with her then husband, Michael Schiavo, and Michael had called my dad because something had happened to Terri. He didn't know what it was, he claimed. So my dad called me because Terri and I lived in the same apartment complex. So he told me that Michael had called him, and so my father asked me to get over there as fast as I could, which I did. I was over there within minutes. In the meantime, my dad told Michael to hang up the phone and call 911, which he did. So when I got there to where Terri, where they lived, again, wasn't far from where I lived, I walked in and saw Terri on the ground, and Michael was essentially frantic, not knowing what happened to his wife. I wasn't too concerned because I had saw Terri earlier and she was perfectly fine. So I thought perhaps she had just collapsed or fainted. And I remember reaching down and shook her shoulder, and she was basically unresponsive, although I did hear her breathing. It was labored, but she was breathing. It was just then that the paramedics got there, the emergency service crew, and I knew right away as soon as they got to her that there was something seriously wrong. So they couldn't find a pulse, and they had to use the defibrillators several times to get her heart started. They were working on her for what seemed to be a long time, probably a half hour, 40 minutes before they were able to stabilize her to transport her to the hospital. And those first couple of days, we didn't know if Terri was going to live or die, but she survived the collapse, and that's when everything started for our family. As far
the nightmare continued. Yeah.
Right. I mean, initially, Terri was in pretty bad shape, but within a rather quick period of time, just a couple weeks, she was starting to improve, and she was not hooked up to any types of machines. The only thing keeping her alive, she had difficulty swallowing because of her brain injury that she experienced from the collapse and the lack of oxygen. So the only thing that was sustaining her was food and water through a feeding tube. She needed that feeding tube because of her difficulty swallowing. But that was it. And our family and Michael at the time, who was appointed her guardian, were doing everything in our power and his power to see if Terri would improve from that, from her condition. And she was improving. She was receiving rehabilitation and therapy for that first couple of years, and she was starting to form words. She was starting to progress, responding in a good way, in a positive way from the rehabilitation and therapy. Michael, as I said, was the guardian. He never mentioned anything about an advance directive, anything about a verbal living will that Terri had. Everything was really in an effort to try and get Terri better. But this all changed in 1992 after there was a medical malpractice lawsuit that Michael initiated, and he was successful in getting Terri money to pay for her lifelong rehabilitation and therapy. So in 1992, as I said, Terri was awarded for a medical trust upwards of $1 million that was supposed to be used for her lifelong care and therapy. Unfortunately, after the money was put safely into a trust account, that's when everything changed. That's when Michael changed, and that's when he really began his pursuit to end Terri's life. And it was really when our family were doing everything we could to defend Terri from being killed at the hands of Michael, her husband.
He started to make sure that she didn't receive the antibiotics that she was supposed to receive, right? And
right. Well, we soon found out that Michael was telling the nursing home where Terri was being cared for not to treat UT infections that she had acquired, which would have led to her death by sepsis. We didn't know these things. The people at the staff at the nursing home was telling us. He tried to do this on 2 occasions over the course of 2 years, and our family was unaware of this, and we were really powerless. My parents were powerless because Michael was the guardian, so he had full control over the medical treatment that Terri would or would not receive. And it was really sometime in 1997. This kind of went on for several years. And in 1997, Michael obtained an attorney that they decided that they were going to petition the court to see if they could remove Terri's feeding tube, since they figured, I guess Michael figured that he couldn't kill her by refusing antibiotics or not treating her. So he decided to find an attorney and ask him, how could they do this? Interestingly enough, we found this again after the fact, that Michael was living with another woman shortly after the trust fund was established, and said that he was going to marry her. He proposed to her and said they would marry her when Terri would die. And also, with Michael being the guardian, he would inherit whatever was left in Terri's trust fund when, in fact, she did die. So our family...
Greed was definitely a factor.
there was enormous conflicts of interest on the part of Michael going forward, and we didn't think he had really any chance of being successful in the court. But as we all know, who were following Terri's case, we were wrong. After a long, protracted legal battle, and I don't know how much details you want me to go into, but our family fought very hard. But Michael was successful in convincing the court that Terri, quote unquote, wanted to die, which was absolutely absurd. But nevertheless, the court sided with Michael, and we fought for many years up until 2005, when ultimately Terri's feeding tube was removed, and she had to go almost 2 weeks, as you mentioned earlier, without food and water before she died.
Wasn't Judge Greer and Michael's attorney, weren't they both members of the Hemlock Society, advocates of for euthanasia? I remember hearing something about that.
Well, that was never proven.
It wasn't. Okay.
Although Michael's attorney was a very outspoken euthanasia proponent.
Mm.
But what relationship he... well, we do know that it was, of course, Judge Greer and the attorneys, and it was in Pinellas County, Florida. They obviously all worked in the same circles, so they did know each other, but that's not unusual.
Right.
But yeah, it just from the beginning, Judge Greer seemed to really be hell-bent that Terri would die, and we, to this day, feel as though the judge really wasn't being objective, really from the get-go, and in his mind anyway, believed that it was in Terri's best interest that she have her feeding tube taken away.
I remember as we had left the hospice and we're on our way back to Virginia, and I'm sure you probably didn't hear this because you were in the midst of all of that chaos, but there was a man in Florida, as a matter of fact, same state, that was arrested and fined for starving and thirsting his dog to death.
Right.
So it was illegal. He got thrown in jail for thirsting and starving his dog to death, but Terri was being deprived of food and water as a human being, and that was totally illegal and fine. It was madness. Insane.
It's a felony crime to dehydrate and starve an animal to death, but yet, and one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing, what happened to Terri was happening long before her case made the news that it did, and it's happening even more today. And we're not talking about people that have some type of pathological illness that's going, some terminal illness where they're actively dying, so to speak. We're talking about situations just like Terri and the elderly, people that are not dying, but for whatever reason, they need a feeding tube because they're having difficulty swallowing. So these people have been targeted by this aggressive movement, and these are the people that every single day in our nation and really globally are having their food and water taken away from them, because it's legal in all 50 states to remove food and hydration from individuals like Terri, from the elderly, from countless medically vulnerable, because food and water through feeding tubes has been reclassified. And because of this reclassification from what was considered basic and ordinary care to where it's now considered medical treatment, because of this change in classification on how we administer food and water to a human being through a feeding tube, it has basically opened up Pandora's box, so to speak, and has put countless medically vulnerable people in the crosshairs of this movement. And they have been very successful in accomplishing what they want to accomplish, and that is being able to take away food and hydration from people that aren't dying, people that are in their minds aren't able to give much back to the community, to society. In their minds, they look at them as a drain on society, and therefore they had to figure out a way to be able to kill these individuals. And they've been quite successful in not only changing the laws to reflect this, but indoctrinating most of the culture today and desensitizing us to the value and dignity of these people. And it is a routine event now, starving and dehydrating people with disabilities and the elderly every day in our country.
I had no idea it was in all 50 states. I did not realize that. I think many people don't realize it. They think, oh, it's the respirator that's just being taken away or not. No, food and water, just the very basics. That's shocking.
Well, that's why advanced directives can be so, filling out an advanced directive, you have to be careful because of language. Because food and water is considered through feeding tubes as medical treatment or artificial life support or extraordinary care, people don't realize. They think that's machines, that they think that's a ventilator, they think that perhaps might be dialysis, whatever. But no, this just means simply food and hydration through a feeding tube. And some people just have difficulty swallowing for a short period of time, whether it's a stroke or something that's causing difficulty in swallowing. But if you need a feeding tube, even for a short period of time, your life can be in jeopardy if the people that are advocating for you, or if your advanced directive allows healthcare professionals to enforce your advanced directive and remove it from you if that's what you're asking for, not knowing that food and water is now included under this umbrella of extraordinary care medical treatment.
And it's coming from all angles, isn't it? I mean, first you have to hope that your loved ones are the same mindset as you, the patient. You've got the insurance companies, I'm guessing, and the hospitals. Don't they have the ethics committees or the doctor? I mean, it could be any one of those that could turn on you and say, remove the feeding tube.
Well, yeah, it's become insidious, quite honestly, and of course, just like what we see in our nation today, behind what's happening, it seems to be that money is driving this, and I mean, there's no doubt, at least with the calls that we're receiving at our nonprofit, that, and again, I'm painting a broad brush here.
Right.
Not all hospitals and healthcare facilities are out to, should I say, are looking out for their best interest rather than the patients. But I think a growing number of healthcare facilities and hospitals and even the healthcare community are in fact looking out for the best interest of the hospital and their bottom line, rather than what is the best interest of the patient and what is the best interest, what is the treatment that the patient needs on a long-term basis or whatever it might be that's going to help this person, but rather they're looking at their bottom line, and costs are now involved in deciding what treatment they're going to receive and not receive. And the scary thing about this is families don't realize it, but their medical rights have eroded to the point where they're going to have no ability or not have any power, if you want to use power, to stop it from happening. So it's really shifted now. Decision making when it comes to decision making, when it comes to certain medical treatments, people don't realize that the healthcare system now, the healthcare facilities are in a position of making these decisions regardless of what the family wants for their loved one.
So even regardless of, like, for example, years ago, after everything happened with Terri, it scared the daylights out of us. So we went and found out that American Life League has a loving will. And just because we didn't have an attorney that we knew that we could have anything filled out, we filled it out. Is that, when you talk about the advanced directives or whatever, what should people do? Now, before they get sick, what's a good?
Well, the more I learn about this issue, the more, and again, I think everybody should probably consult with their own attorney and speak with their doctors. Hopefully they're pro-life doctors and attorneys. I mean, pro-life in the true sense of the word pro-life. Mm-hmm. But we're learning that advanced directives are oftentimes not even worth the paper they're written on. And what people really need are advocates, people that you would appoint to speak for you or to become your advocate if you're ever in these types of situations, if you're incapacitated and you can't make these decisions. And these advocates know, they know your values and principles and the type of treatment that you want. When you fill out an advanced directive, it can be problematic. Advanced directives might be filled out years ago. The laws might change. Advanced directives also, when you fill them out, your own health might change. So those types of things are a snapshot at that particular time. When you fill out an advanced directive, or a snapshot at that particular time of the care you would want. And again, those things, it's very fluid. So again, from everything I'm learning and the people that we've spoke to about these types of issues, the best thing a person can do to protect themselves is having an advocate that knows your rights, knows patients' rights, knows if they're in that situation, is able to provide the security, or able to provide the help to best protect your life. If you ever do come across or come in front of a hostile hospital or healthcare professionals that are doing what you don't believe is in your loved one's best interest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and one thing I remember hearing too is whomever it is that you get to be your advocate, you should have in there, especially being Catholic, that they are to consult with a priest for any life decisions.
Sure. I mean, yes. And again,
the right priest.
Right priest, because we're again, a lot of the things that we're seeing. For instance, I should go back and say that even though I mentioned where food and hydration is now considered medical treatment in the healthcare community, Catholics do not identify food and water through feeding tubes as anything but basic and ordinary care. So, in fact, Pope John Paul, or I should say Saint Pope John Paul, issued an allocution in 2004 that was in response to what was happening to Terri, clarifying church teaching when it comes to people that are not dying and are able to assimilate or use food and hydration through a feeding tube, that we are morally obligated to provide that type of care, food and hydration, to an individual. And under no circumstances are we to do anything that would jeopardize or would lead to that person's death by removing that food and hydration. So again, as long as, I mean, the society, our culture today might look, the healthcare community might look at food and hydration as extraordinary care, as medical treatment, the Catholic Church does not. But sadly, we've dealt with Catholic hospitals, Catholic nursing homes that do not adhere to the teachings of the Church when it comes to food and hydration, and are just as guilty of doing this to individuals as the secular community. So yeah, if you mention a priest, I mean, the Catholic, the clergy, the leaders in our church, the Catholic Church, are not providing the leadership that is needed on this issue, and I know many other issues too. Yeah. They're not providing the leadership that we need, so people understand. So many of the Catholics are confused in this issue, and we need help, and we're just not getting it from our leadership, from our clergy.
Well, and that's where your organization comes in. So tell us, should, heaven forbid, one of us find ourselves in, a situation like this, do they call? Do they email? What happens? What do you all do?
Depends on how urgent the situation is, but sure, you can email, you can call. We have a hotline that people call. And we do what I was speaking about earlier. We advocate for families that need that type of help. We basically have three objectives of our nonprofit, and we've been doing this for 10 years. And we don't charge for this. All this is completely pro bono. The services that we offer. We try to educate the public, raise the awareness, kind of what we're talking about here tonight, but also provide the support a family might need if they are faced with a hospital or physicians that are trying to again enforce against the family's will or against the family's the decisions, the medical treatments they want for their loved ones. If they're running up against a hospital that's doing what the family doesn't want, then yes, call us. We'll assess the situation, and depending what we feel the family needs, we have a tremendous amount of resources our network has acquired over the years, and we use them to help these families. And we, fortunately, we've been, only because of Terri, what she went through, but we've been rather successful in helping families when they get in these such situations.
So you do it all pro bono, so that means you need donations. Honestly, is everyone volunteering? Somebody has to be getting paid. There seems like there's a lot of opportunities. Number one, do you need volunteers? And can it be, that you can live in another state, or do you have to be there in Philadelphia? How does that work?
Well, it just depends on as far as volunteers, but yes, we're always looking for financial support. Much of the support that we receive is from Christians and pro-life groups and people that are obviously understand the dignity of life and their protection it needs. But because of the abortion issue, which obviously needs our attention more than any issue that we're dealing with, but this one does too. And I think people don't see the urgency with this issue as they do with the abortion issue. But I think if people understood and knew how many people are being killed each year in our healthcare facility by imposed death and euthanasia, I think people would be literally shocked on how relatively easy it is today to end someone's life. And so yes, we need financial support to continue what we're doing. That's always been a struggle. Again, because this issue, I don't think people see the urgency, or they just don't believe that happening as much as it's happening today.
Well, because no one really wants to think about death, but whether they want to think about it or not, it's going to come to each one of us. And chances are each one of us is going to die in a hospital or be taken to a hospital at some point. This will affect each and every one of us, and it needs to be brought to the forefront. That's the thing that really, it's just been ringing true with me is, yes, thanks be to God, the light has been shown on the pro-life movement, and with the wonderful David Daleiden videos and everything, it's really helped to show the truth. But everyone remains in denial about euthanasia, and we need to get some support, especially for your organization, because you're out there, you're doing it. What is the? I remember I looked at your website, and it was something like allies, something about allies for donations. What was it called?
Well, we always look for sustaining allies, people that would commit to donating monthly to our cause.
And I remember, the thing that struck me was, you weren't asking for $1 million a month, though it would be nice. But it said on there, even as little as $1 a month. Well, it's true. For people that are watching now, that maybe, we all get busy with our lives. We're all, spinning our wheels and maybe, hop on Facebook for a few minutes. And we sometimes it's hard to look outside of what's going on in our life. But just to write a quick little check, $52, a little something. Something would be better than nothing. Plus, getting active would be nice if they could help with volunteering. But people, in my opinion, people need to get active. It's great. The prayers, very important. Let's not discount the power of prayer. But money counts, because this is a battle for life. And the battle is waged. The insurance companies, the hospitals, doctors, whoever, they're all pushing their agenda, and they're having great success. We shouldn't be losing lives the way that we are. And people need to wake up and see that and appreciate the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network for what it does. Either start stroking those checks, tell your friends, and also Faith Life Family Wear. You were gracious enough to wear our products on Women of Grace show. And the promise is that with every item that's bought, the people at checkout, at the end of checkout, they can choose the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network, and the monies will go to that organization. But you've got to buy. You've got to get out there and take a stand with style, as we say. Get on our website, flfwear.com, and buy something and choose Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network, or even better, just go directly to their Life and Hope website, lifeandhope.com, and donate today and spread the word. This will, do not kid yourself. This will affect you. So now one other thing I wanted to ask is there any type of March for Life, but against euthanasia? It's marching for life, but we need to call more attention, either nationally, internationally. Is there anything like that at all?
No, not that I'm aware of, Missy. We're trying to raise awareness around Terri's, the anniversary of her death, which is March 31st. I'm trying to use that as the date to recognize that this issue is something that needs to, people need to in the same way that we recognize Roe v. Wade in January in Washington. We would like to raise the awareness so March 31st people will remember that euthanasia is occurring every day in our country, and we need to start doing more to raise the awareness. And because, as you said, there's nothing more important than the protection of life and the value of life. If we don't protect life and value life, then I think you can see the breakdown of our society because of that. And now March 31st, you're going to be having, what is it, a tribute for life? Is that what it is? We'll be having a mass to remember Terri. It's in Philadelphia at the Cathedral Basilica in downtown Philly. Archbishop Chaput has been our celebrant the last 3 years. Unfortunately, he had a commitment out of town. So Father Frank Pavone will be celebrating the mass this year. And then subsequent to the mass, we'll be having kind of a cocktail reception and a tribute for life celebration, and that'll be directly following the Mass, and it's right up the street from the cathedral at the Stowsbury Mansion. But you can go on our website, lifeandhope.com, as you mentioned, and get all the information. Love to have you there and love to support us.
So that's a great way. It's a nice little way to fundraise and actually be able to see you and see other like-minded individuals. That sounds wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, you mentioned one thing about wanting to establish a rehabilitation facility.
Right.
Any headway on that at all?
No, it's a dream. It's a dream. It's just, again, if we had the money, we could break ground tomorrow.
Well, St. Padre Pio did it in Italy. You know, faith-based dynamite, state-of-the-art. I believe it's still in use today.
Yes,
so if anybody wants to stroke a nice little check, you have a wealthy uncle that you know is getting a little up in years, tell him about the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network and tell him, you know, how wonderful would it be if in Philadelphia, and I would love to see throughout the nation, these rehabilitation centers that value life, and you won't have to worry about these problems. This is exactly what we need. We need something like this instead of having to battle the ethics committees that are anything but ethical at the different hospitals. So, well, thank you so much, Bobby. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and please come back and just keep us updated on what's going on in the promotion of the culture of life. We need to band together and take action. And thank you again, and God bless you for all that you're doing.
Thank you, and also thank you for the work you're doing and having me on. I really appreciate it, and I'd love to come back anytime. So thank you. God bless you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. God bless. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. Stay tuned.
Faith Life Family Wear is a faith-based crusted clothing accessory line that promotes our faith, life, family, and traditional marriage through fashion appropriate for both work and play. Shop now to look great, evangelize, and support Fiat Ministry Network. Share the good news about our website with your friends to encourage everyone to take a stand with style.
Stay connected with Fiat Ministry Network. Like us on Facebook. Stay updated at fiatministrynetwork.tv/feed. Follow us on Twitter at fiatministrynet. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/fiatministrynetwork. Fiat Ministry Network, encouraging all to say yes to Jesus Christ.
You're back.
Welcome back. And we're going to be joined by our producer, Kent. Are you with us?
Yes, I am. I'm going to move myself around, but yep, I am here.
Okay, great. Well, how about that information? I mean, it's shocking. I really had no idea that 50 states.
Yes.
It's really scary, you know, and that's the thing that I always worry about is I remember hearing that if you're deemed unuseful to society, that means someone that's, you know, ill, you know, has a disability. That you are a prime person to be euthanized. But now to know it's just food and water that can be removed for the drop of a hat. I mean, it's unbelievable that we're not getting the message of how scary and how dangerous this really is to each and every one of us.
Yes.
We really do need to take a stand.
No, it's a great point, and I was just that fact right there was just like blowing my mind just to know that. And you're saying about the animals. I mean, that's against the law to. I just don't get that.
That's the thing that blew us away. The very same state.
Yeah.
It's illegal. The guy was thrown in jail, fined, and we're driving back, and we're thinking, are we imagining this? We're hearing this on the radio. The very same state. They are killing this woman, and. The guy's getting thrown in jail because of his dog. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I love dogs. You know, we have a dog that we absolutely love. But we're talking about human life here, people. Yes. Let's get a clue, you know. PETA people, I love animals, but I love people more. God gave us dominion over the animals. Wake up. Yes. You know, it's just,
Well,
out of control.
Well,
Yeah.
we had a couple things in the chat room. There was a Christopher that popped in and was mentioning how, how our loved ones can also kind of, in a sense, turn on us. And he was mentioning that, and it's kind of sad that you can think that way. And then,
Well, and that's one thing I was trying to bring up was, you've got it from all different sides. You have to worry, that your husband or your wife or whoever the loved one is all of a sudden doesn't get greedy and want to just kick you to the curb so that they can get on with their life. That's the first battle.
Yes.
The second, the insurance company. You're not useful. You're costing too much. You've been in that hospital too long. They want you out. And the hospital wants you out. Or your doctor. Forget about that. We didn't even talk about the fact that your doctor could be. Well, I'm going to mention the Hemlock Society. They are advocates for, or were, for euthanasia. Don't kid yourself. There is an agenda being pushed here around the world. I mean, I believe it's Sweden and the Netherlands. And shoot, right here, there's a columnist that's pushing for, and this sounds off the wall, but I looked it up again just to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. This woman wants ice cream trucks, vans, to be able to go around and euthanize people, like assisted suicide trucks. Wow. She thinks it'd be so wonderful, and even thinks they should have the music similar to the ice cream truck to lull people into thinking that this is a happy thing. That whole thing of dying with dignity and, this is being merciful. It's a bunch of malarkey. It's such baloney, and people need to see it for what it is and call it on the carpet. I totally think, I wish March 31st was not still a cold month. I mean, we always do the March for Life, and we're always out there freezing to death. And I always think, why wasn't Roe v. Wade in the summer? It's a great thing to offer up, I know. Yeah. But I'm telling you, I think we need to be doing a March 31st, because that is the day that Terri died, or Terri was killed. Right. I think we need to be doing a March for Life against euthanasia. I mean, we need to do something to call more attention to it. Bobby doing everything that he can with his organization, doing it all pro bono, helping people.
I know exactly. I know exactly. And I feel for him, and it's just, how do you, as much as you can get the word out, you have to have that humbleness to give and to serve and to volunteer or do whatever you can do, quote unquote, with your spare time, or just just do it. And that's, I give him total credit for what he's trying to do and try to raise the money to keep fighting. That's the thing. Fight the good fight. We got to fight the good fight. And I guess 5511, it's very important to know church teaching. And so that's also in the chat room. Welcome everybody in the chat room. We got a couple people in the chat right now.
Wasn't it sad that he was saying, because I remember him saying something before about it's important to have a priest, to consult with or whatever. But what's really sad is you might not even get the best advice from some of the priests. That's why, again, I always say, if you're not being spiritually fed at your parish, move along, little doggy, because you need truth. And it might be, your last days. And if you're not being spiritually fed, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Yeah. And actually, speaking of spiritually fed,
yes,
this week, Good Friday, is the day that the Divine Mercy Novena begins.
Yep.
You can look it up on EWTN.com or any website. Right? There's the Stockbridge Marian Helpers. They have where it tells you how to pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet. It's an actual novena starting on Good Friday.
Yep.
However, as powerful, don't get me wrong, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, incredibly powerful, and especially if it's said for someone on their deathbed. Our Lord has promised, he promised St. Faustina that he would show mercy to even the most hardened of sinners. So that's fabulous. However, I don't want people to fret that, oh goodness, I was starting my novena and then I forgot a couple of days, or, I just missed it or whatever. That's okay. Divine Mercy Sunday is the most important thing. It's wonderful to do the chaplet every day. If you can do it every day at 3:00, our Lord has so many promises that he's given. But the most important thing is Divine Mercy Sunday. Make a good sacramental confession, receive Holy Communion. Do your best. That you've got to try to be detached from not just mortal sin, which, you'll be obviously detached if you go to confession, but from venial sin. So I recommend, I know myself, I'm always in that line on Sunday because I'm thinking, I might go on Saturday, but chances are I'm going to get mad at somebody in my family, or driving home. I don't know. Somebody might cut me off, and I'm going to have a venial thought, that venial sin thought that maybe is not that charitable. And you just don't want anything to stand in the way of you getting every benefit of Divine Mercy Sunday, because it wipes away not just all of your sin, but it's all of the temporal punishment, all of your purgatory time, completely and totally wiped away all the way up until that point. So for your whole life, all the purgatory time, and you're going to be doing a lot of purgatory time for a life's worth of sins, it's all wiped away. The slate is wiped clean. So if you were to die the very next day, you're zooming right to heaven. I mean, it is such a great gift from our Lord. It is so merciful. It is so loving. We need to take advantage of it and tell people about it. Don't just be selfish and think, well, I'm going to go to confession and go to Holy Communion and I'm going to be, skating right up to heaven. Spread the good news. This is too good to keep to yourself. You want as many souls to get to heaven as possible. And this is one of those sure shot ways. It's dynamite.
No, it's a great, that's one thing. We play the chaplet of Divine Mercy right before the shows right now. If anyone wants to, promote something, that's also, we could do that, but it's a great, pre-show, and it's so, the Divine Mercy is so, especially in music. I always listen to it in the car, and it's just a beautiful, to sing it and just hear it like that. And we have Norman from Hawaii in the chat room. Welcome. Aloha. As we say.
That's right.
I think that's the right one.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, but you got a great. You made the great points of that Sunday is so. Divine Mercy Sunday is so important, and I know we have. You're going to have guests, and Fiat Ministry Network will have guests talking about the Divine Mercy Sunday, and
right. We're going to have Father Jeff Kirby, who is in Rome. We'll be filming him from Rome live on the 31st, and he's just done a whole Bible series for parishes on the doors of mercy. And he's also got a book, a wonderful book, Lord, Teach Us to Pray. He's got so much to tell us. He actually he's the co-founder of a pro-life advocacy thing down in Charleston. So he'll definitely be a great guest to talk with, especially, in this year of mercy. So, and as far as the Divine Mercy Chaplet goes, it never fails. When we're taking a long family trip, the timing is always to where we happen upon an unfortunate bad accident. And immediately, we will have already prayed our family rosary on the way down. You better believe it. But immediately we pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet for, the good of the soul, the body and soul of the person or persons that are in that accident. And that's our job. Just like, trying to gain plenary indulgences. As the church militant, that's what we are. We are supposed to be praying for the church suffering. That's our job. And that means, learning what plenary indulgences are and how to gain them. You can't be selfish and keep them for yourself. You've got to give it to the dead. And that's who, with the exception of, I think, twice a year, as a matter of fact, Pope John Paul II added a plenary indulgence to Divine Mercy Sunday. That's an addition, But plenary indulgences are meant for the dead. So don't receive Holy Communion and just, pray for your own intentions and that's it. Don't waste that plenary indulgence. Offer it up. I offer this up for my grandmother, for all my ancestors, for, whatever soul needs it most in purgatory.
Yes.
But, if you don't know enough about plenary indulgences and about how to pray for the intentions of the Holy Father and everything, go to Google, find a good Catholic site and do it. I mean,
Yes.
they're counting on us. And believe me, the holy souls in purgatory, they can pray for you, but they can't get themselves out. They're going to be suffering in purgatory, but they can be praying for us. So it's kind of a win-win situation. You pray for the holy soul in purgatory. They're praying for you while they're there, because they can.
Yep.
And then when they get to heaven, because your plenary indulgence may have gotten them into heaven, then you've got somebody in heaven praying for you. So, it's and they'll be there to greet you when you make it there, So it's a win-win situation.
No, it's like, and it's just, it's a win-win. And how much more do you want to be part of something of that nature? What else is more important than getting your slate clean? And just understanding. Wow, we're James Littleton's in the chat room. It's a nice start, Missy, for your first show.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, let me tell you two other things, because I don't want to forget, because I know we're pressed for time. But okay, everyone, you got your palms on Palm Sunday. Can you see? I quickly just put this together as a little cross here. If you haven't folded yours, they're probably still pliable. You can still make it into a cross. One thing that's really nice to do, and we know about it because we go to the traditional Latin Mass. You need to ask the priest, and if he doesn't know the prayer or the blessing, go to a traditional Latin Mass. I guarantee that priest will. The St. Peter of Verona martyr, April 29th. You ask the priest to give the blessing to make sure you have 4 if you can, even if you have to make them smaller, 4 little crosses. The special blessing is going to protect you. If you bury them in the 4 corners of the perimeter of your property, it protects against everything, tornado, any kind of evil. I always just had great comfort putting those out there, burying them in the ground. It's just something that it's been done for as long as I've ever heard about it. But for many, many years. And it's just one of those wonderful little things, the beauty of our faith, that we need to take advantage of. Both that and Easter Vigil holy water. Make sure that even when you go in there on Easter Sunday, you'll see a little, I don't know, every church is different, but there'll be some sort of container. And if you don't see it, ask about it. Ask for some of that Easter Vigil holy water. It's thrice blessed. Yes, there are different strengths of holy water. They're all holy water. They're all going to get the job done, but some do it a little bit better than others. Some have the extra exorcism blessing and everything that, when maybe things are going a little awry at your house or whatever, and you've already had your house blessed by a priest, you might want to go around, kids are acting crazy. Everything's going crazy. All of a sudden, start blessing everybody with some holy water from Easter Vigil. It certainly can't hurt. Yeah. But it's just one of those things that Epiphany holy water and Easter Vigil holy water, truly the most powerful ones that you don't want to just, let go. Just take advantage of it. So I think that's I will talk more about Divine Mercy next week with Father Jeff Kirby. And that's, again, he's going to be coming to us from Rome. And hope that that all works out well. And don't forget to visit and shop Faith Life Family Wear and choose either Fiat Ministry Network or the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network for your charitable donation. They can all use it. And just remember to always take a stand with style. And now if we could just close with a prayer, actually from the Divine Mercy Chaplet, our Lord promised St. Faustina that he would, if you said this, just this little prayer, that he would give the graces to whomever it is that you're saying it for, if they're in need of conversion. You wouldn't force it upon them, but the graces would be great. So who doesn't have a family member or a friend that's fallen away from the church or needs conversion of heart? So if we can start with that. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. O blood and water, which gushed forth from the heart of Jesus as a fount of mercy for us, I trust in you. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, We love you. Please save souls. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Please join us again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in today. God bless you all.